and the Tristana trades.
So we have that back again. So this is, I think, in another world, you ban out the Azir and you say, look, let's just try playing for a different mid lane matchup. Haichao says, no, my Tristana is great. I've won a game with it, and the other game, which we just lost, I don't care about. I still played well in that. I think the Tristana-Maokai combo is fine. I think what we're seeing, though, is that the Maokai is getting caught out an awful lot. This needs to be a tighter game from Meteor to not just get randomly caught out in the enemy jungle. We've seen that from multiple players today. It's not just a Meteor thing. Teams have just been very good at punishing Maokais.
I honestly think both teams are saying that game came down to the wire. That game came down to a few mistakes. Let's run it back and see what happens. Maybe some changes come through here, though, as I would expect in the second phase, some of that banning maybe coming down to priorities from that last game.
Ooh, Rumble has not been picked up in this series just yet. In fact, it made its way through the second rounds of bans before this as well. This is good into the Kasance. It can drop that ultimate onto a backline as well with the AD carry yet to be picked. Interestingly, no center locked in the first rotation. I do think that the center has been incredibly high impact and high priority as well. Surprised to see that fall so far down. I'd imagine that has to be a ban now from, well, heck, which side is going to ban it? I mean... That's the problem. I think you probably have to ban it as AL because you don't want the center to be picked up on 4 by Kepler.
Okay. Well, I think in that case you have to really be careful of like the hole you're putting yourself into. I will also say this is the first game of Rumble for Burdol, at least in this year. So very curious. Obviously, really powerful combo with the Maokai, but want to see how he works on that one because the flanks were the big thing we were highlighting for him. And yes, the equalizer, I guess, counts as maybe a flank. I don't know. But it's going to be really interesting.
It's backline access,
it is.
Importantly, right? So he has the ability to kind of reach the backline. And I'm just looking through the career of Burdol. This is not... Okay, so it's not his first game of Rumble ever. He's played 3 games of it before, so it's not been the most played thing. And he's 2-1 of it all time. I was just looking down the list to see if it had cropped there, and it has. And the center is actually banned by LGD. So they're not going to be picking that up themselves. Instead, to ban that away from Hope and Kael, of course, played it last game.
I do like some of the priorities of the big name bot laners that we have right now, but there are some that have been left up. This one importantly so. It has been so weird today. Yes, we've had a lot of bans of it, but man, it's so crazy how many times this pick has been let through and not picked up. Now it is let through and picked up, and Kepler's going to be piloting that.
So there are a lot of picks. Last pick support here with a Kalista specifically is so powerful. There are a lot of champions which aren't that strong in lane, but Kalista makes them be able to either dominate lane or just survive in it, and then become a huge potential threat later on. Stuff like Alistar comes to mind, where Alistar can sometimes struggle on his own, but Kalista carries you so hard in the early game that it doesn't particularly matter beyond that point. They're still looking towards the Tahm Kench lane. This is the old praying gorilla bot lane that they played so much earlier seasons of League. It is very hard to get through an Ezreal Tahm Kench. They play from range. They have the Devour if you do get on top of them. Problem is, Kalista is particularly good versus the Tahm Kench, so maybe you're a little bit worried about picking that champion into that. The Ezreal's already locked. They're looking towards another source. They're flip-flopping. I don't know about the Tahm Kench into the Kalista. This is good with the center because it gets more income. You can't really do that. This is going to be the support, low-income Tahm Kench, and Kalista can kill that tank quite easily.
I'm very curious of that. Also, the Ezreal power with the range that you have there and the ability to get out of some of those big engages that LGD are looking for. But we're back to that final pick. LGD trying to get the support locked down here for them. It'll be the Nautilus paired up for that Kalista.
Okay, so Nautilus locked in, another engaged threat. Not going to be something like the Alistar. I think that's completely fine, though. Something like the Alistar can struggle to get on top of sometimes the Azir and the Ezreal because they're quite mobile for long-range carries. Nautilus ult, though, they can't escape from. That'll force out the Devour for free. Now, I think LGD's composition is going to be very much about spreading out their engage in such the way that Kael can't save Shanks or Hope from the entirety of your burst in one Devour. You need to spread it out so something can affect them as soon as they pop out from that ultimate, and then they're still back in combat. So watch out to see how they manage their engages. On the other side, we have absolutely seen what Shanks can do on this Azir. We know what this Kasante can do as well. It feels like a lot of the team fight should be going towards the Rumble, going towards the Kalista. But if it's go up to Shanks, our MVP of Game 2, it could be an even fight.
It could be as well. And I think we've seen some serious adaptations come through here in this final game. And while last game was topsy-turvy, it is also about buckling down and figuring out what exactly works for you, because a lot of that momentum can lead to some chaotic situations. You don't want that game 3 to be decided off of that.
Momentum, how much is it going to rattle them? That was a hell of a game 2. It could have been, I'm not going to say it early night, but it could have all been over already. There was so many times we thought that should be it. That should be the game-winning play. Now we start on a blank slate. Game 3, all on the line. Game
3 between these two, a fight we knew was coming. AL versus LGD, our first 9-game night in the LPL. You watch LEC, you watch LCS, those weeks are done already. You got one more game in us if we have an LEC, but it's an incredible moment. Both these teams putting everything on the line, and the fact that it all comes down to this for both teams.
On to the Rift we go for one final time today. It has been a long journey, and you know, I love watching me some League of Legends, don't get me wrong, but this has been one heck of a marathon.
Good games.
They have been. You know, yesterday we had some, 20-minute First Bloods, and we were sad there in solidarity with Munchables and Lyric, who dragged us through that one, trying to keep the games alive as they were so grindingly slow as teams tried to chess match each other into a dominant position. These games today, this series today, it hasn't been chess. It's been more like throwing the pieces directly at the other team's forehead and trying to knock them out with that one. It has been back, and it has been forth, and we have one last shot at it now.
And it's so funny because going into the day, that was a big talking point we wanted to go through. It's like, oh, wow, LPL is slowing down a lot. That's crazy. Well, we've had some crazy games this time, maybe speed things up as well. We've also had some very long, tight net games as well. So we'll see how this one pans out, but I do want to point out the mirrored clears right now for both junglers and see where that priority is going to lie. I expect a lot of spotlight on the spot lane, though.
It's true. When you have junglers who start on opposite sides of the map, it means that you're looking, but you can't really dive with that kind of power anymore. You used to be able to in like season 10, season 11 rather. That was the kind of time you could go for the dives. But you're looking to maybe drop down a ward at the end of your first clear to see what happens at the end of the second clear. I think as soon as you get to level 3 to just at the end of your second clear, when grubs are starting to spawn as well, that's when knowing where junglers are on the map is very, very important. And of course, between these two teams, seen a lot of early dragons too, so don't be surprised to see that started up. And maybe, well, with the Kalista, you're expecting them to get prio, but Croco's hit first!
Beautiful flash from Croco. They had no idea it was coming. And AL, they spring forth, and they take down Kepler. The kill goes to Croco as he throws up the shark.
And there isn't enough early game information for Kepler and JinJiao to see the ambush predator yet again coming out of the shadows. Incredible early kill there. It's going to deny some of the laning power from the Kalista, kill over to the Rel, so not over to the bot lane themselves, but still a much needed reprieve from anyone's Legends bot lane.
You got to watch out for those predatory metal horses. I mean, they'll just come out out of nowhere.
There are ambush predators around here. All right, so let's see what happens with this one. Croco immediately gets a quick level 3, and this is just a lack of jungle information from LGD. Yes, with the Kalista, you want to be playing all in, but you have to have correct information to do it. It is not a fair 2v2. Hope isn't even level 2 until the kill comes down. Gets away with it, though. I'm
surprised they didn't expect Croco to be starting on the red side for him. But, yeah, it's going to come away with a big mistake, and LGD are down now. Did see a pretty heavy trade of health bars in the mid lane. Should be the TP back from Haichao now early.
I think both these mid laners looking to get the first back off, especially once you get gold for the Vamp Scepter from Haichao. That's very, very valuable. Meteor now down towards the bot side. No summoners.
He got it. He got the connection. Hope is in some trouble now. Does get locked down for the dredge line. And, well, we see another catch out, but this time it's in the favor of LGD.
All right, so blow for blow in the bot side. Hope goes down this time, and despite the reprieve from bot lane, it is only a brief one. Kepler on the board, which means he gets the kill, whereas the kill on the other side, as we said, went to the jungle, not towards the bot lane.
I like that Croco's going for the opposite side play, though. We'll be stealing away a couple of the camps from Meteor. At least the one so far. Maybe looking for a gank now on the top side of the map as Burdol's going to be pressing in Hery very heavily.
And this is one of the risks of putting so much pressure bot side when you have a top lane matchup like this. We've seen multiple times now across different regions in the world that the Rumble can just sit there, take in the Ignite as well. Will sit there and say, well, I'm going to burn down this Cassante. If you leave me alone with them, you are losing out at least, 1,000 to 2,000 gold in just solo advantage alone.
Not enough confidence in the top side of the map to get a play going there. A nice little big minion wave probably deterred that and the health bar and mana bar of Hery. Meanwhile, Croco was looking mid lane, won't find it, but does get the rocket jump out of Haichao. We do have both neutral minions spawning. Meteor looking to be the first one here for the Grubs.
Okay, so now we're getting towards, of course, end of the second clear and seeing how both of these junglers can contest around this. Croco can walk up, doesn't smite the first one, of course didn't have smite. Meteor maybe didn't know that Croco didn't have smite, you don't get to see their own summoning cooldown. So Croco gets the kind of third party of this, breaks the shield of that one, going to take at least one of them, splitting the first spawns of the Grubs.
That's, I feel like the first time, we had one game earlier, I think that we had some split'ems, but yeah. It's been pretty holistic every time we see the Grubs, so nice to see some contests coming through. We've had a lot of episodes of the Telegrubbies.
The Telegrubbies, yeah.
Had a lot of episodes today.
That we have. And the thing is, it has been really intriguing to see how LPL has come into today and said, okay, this is how you win by having huge amounts of Grubs. Now, in the last game, of course, we saw that LGD couldn't finish the game with 6 Grubs. It gave them a lot of power before that.
No man on Haichao. Both junglers show up at the same time, but it's Meteor that claims the kill on the Shanks.
Both of these junglers have been just seconds away, it feels like, at points from getting a leg up over each other. Croco manages to get towards those Grubs, gets towards the bot lane for the first blood as well. Can't save his mid lane, though, and the plays keep happening.
Big hook connects down on the bot lane, and nothing else going to follow it there. It does mean with that pressure, though, they can take the dragon, and LGD pulling it out will grab this first big dragon stacking objective.
Yeah, and with the Kalista, you assume that you are going to get early dragons anyway, but we have seen a lot of contests for that. So the fact that you get this kill in mid lane removes any possibility of that. Fantastic buster shot. How good has Haichao been today? And I think this is just I think that there is just feeling it in the moment a little too much. You see Meteor in the lane by the time you go for that flash. That's a miscalculation in the moment. And whoa, okay, kill on the top side. We're talking about Burdol. Isolated lane, the Rumble does really well. He dies in a 1v2.
Very, very huge for Hery to get that kill as well. Will set him up well in the lane too. At first, I don't think I've ever seen two junglers run so parallel next to each other going for a game. That was kind of cool. But I think now, with a little bit of response back and forth, we've really seen some of these differences because it is a bloody battle.
Carries him across the wall into his jungler. That is a heck of a combo. Well played, Hery. Forces a bit of a panic flash out of Burdol too. That one's going to be probably coming back to bite him. That's a dangerous thing to blow.
Spam out the Cassante copy pasta, please, if you can. And that's just a Cassante moment. Meanwhile, Meteor was hovering over this mid lane, while JinJiao has actually been super active on the Nautilus too.
That he has, but when Kalista wins bot lane, your support feels so good about life. Sometimes you can bring the Kalista with you on your roams and give you an extra degree of engage or safety with the Fate's Call post level 6, but this is why the Kalista is so important in drafts right now. Nautilus doesn't work in every lane. Kalista wins lanes so hard, though. You can pick pretty much any hard engaged champion you want, though. A lot of the time they've suffered in this year. This time, though, you can see the value from getting out of lane with a lead because your AD carry is so strong.
I do want to check on the mini spikes here. The Sheen did get completed for Hope, so Croco visiting down this way again, trying to make something happen down here. I think that is a nice little spike to play around, but Croco also is somebody who's just consistently known to play around Hope and Kael.
And he's trying to play around them again, but 2 control wards and a vision ward too, well highlighted by the observers. Croco hasn't been seen just yet. He's maintaining his ambush predator guise, but he will be spotted as he moves up into river. If he moves out into this.
How do you stop the metal horse from making metal sounds?
Wait, with really big sounds? Maybe just cover it in a lot of foam. Maybe that's how you do
it. Yeah, that's next skin coming in. That was huge, but that might have just baited JinJiao into getting a little bit of damage back.
I just saw visions of the Mazael following over and only one E being able to get Hope to safety. JinJiao only just hit 6. I think if he had 6 before that, maybe you click on both your ult buttons and see how much you can get. I suppose with the Tom Kench being level 6 too, it's harder to pull that off, so it's just a hook, one and done. Not going to be in that. Croco has been off vision for a long time, by the way.
Sitting
He's wasted
down
a lot
here,
of time here. This is not that valuable.
Oh,
and now suddenly he's
no.
going to get spotted if he walks up.
Ah! Okay, well, at least he gets the ward back. Meteor's on his way here. He does have the Nature's Grasp available, just holding it, waiting to see if AL want to make a move.
Level 6 is hitting the bot side. Makes a lot of sense to cover this lane, right? The Tahm Kench, the Kalista, great ability to continue or disengage fights. You can't really leave the Ezreal alone with that. Yes, you have an exhaust to help maybe with the Rend when it comes down to very low HP numbers.
Oh, they got
That's
the
going to be
Empress
the ult.
Divide, the Magnet Storm, not enough. Haichao with the moves yet again.
Oh, that was so close from Croco. Almost interrupts the jump, almost gets the CC chain, but Haichao gets out. He didn't buff for the initial Emperor's Divide. There was an opening there, but Croco was just pixels too short to do anything about it.
See, Croco, though, he has been super active in trying to set up ganks, now hovering over Hery in the top side of the map. Well, I think there might be a play here. It's going to take a while to come forth, and I think Croco's really starting to fall behind.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? How long has it been since Croco's been back into his own jungle? He's been on our screens for the last
He's down
2
a
minutes,
level.
so it feels like that. He's down a level. He's down, you know, about 4 camps now at this point as well. He's going to go towards the Grubs. I'm sure there's an unpredictability in how Croco is playing around this, trying to snowball all 3 lanes. Reminds me of, heck, maybe even a player like Malrang, who would just give up on all of his farm to be in lanes all of the time. But there's a reason why this has not been a common style of play, particularly right in this composition. Croco needs to be powerful into the late game to be an engaging threat. Gets all 3 Grubs, don't get me wrong, but which is nice. It gives them the 5 Grubs overall, but it feels like Meteor, once he reaches his first couple of items, will be a better frontliner than Croco.
Yeah, and I think that's something that will come to task a little bit later on. You're hoping that maybe the damage differential makes that not matter as much, but we have a dragon coming up. It would be a second stacked dragon for LGD, and they've already put a lot of vision around it too.
They have. Hope hasn't reached his own power spike yet. I think once you reach, you know, obviously the 2-item spike is huge. Machine's a nice component before that. But it does feel like Kepler with the tier 2 boots and a bit of that attack speed as well, he's going to be so much harder to deal with. If you get a good fight and Kalista is not shut down immediately, they will chase you down at this point in the game. It's a very dangerous time to be facing a Kalista, which means that anyone's legend, they need to be very careful about how they potentially contest this dragon.
Gonna be started up now, though. Croco still around the area. Looks like a move up from Kepler, and JinJiao should just secure this one.
So no contest coming through, especially with the bot lane priority being achieved from Kepler and JinJiao. Croco, what's he going to do now? Get some deep vision into the jungle, potentially. I was wondering if there was going to be move up to see if there was any camps alive, but he's been tracking him well enough. Of course, he doesn't have any wards in inventory with the sweeper as well, so no ability to place that vision. So potentially was asking for. He really needs to try and land one of these ganks well now, though, because he's wasted so much time. If he's going to start snowballing, it has to be quick, and here he goes for it!
Timed. Haichao not going to have the rocket jump. As now Croco under tower here, looking for the crash down combo with the Magnet Storm, Shattering Strike, and Shanks gets it.
Croco's really gone deep for this now. He's taken a lot of tower shots. He could just die here.
He's trying to dodge out, but dodged himself out of that one, and the Metal Predator Horse will go down.
It's a bit of an overforce again. Doesn't have the flash. Yes, Haichao loses his, and he loses his life afterwards, but this is just setting Croco more and more behind. And you know that win percent graphic of Rel jungle compared to Rel support? This is closer to a Rel support than a Rel's jungle at this point, with the amount of gold he's been dropping.
It is going to be something I have to pay a tax on, I feel like, later on, because you definitely want, first and foremost, Croco for AL, but any Rel in the situation that he's in to be a big engaged threat, right? And if you don't have the health, you don't have that tank ability, you're not going to have that option as often available to you. Now, we did get Essence Reaver completed for Hope, so he's got his big spike while Kepler still waiting for the pieces.
And if your Q accuracy is very good, of course there's a lot you can do against champions like Tristana and Kalista before they find an all-in on you. Kepler landing a Pierce on the other side, though. Really need to see how that skill shot accuracy starts to rack up. Look at that gold. This is the bonus for what, of course, Croco has been doing. Got Shanks ahead with a number of attempted ganks in that mid lane. Going towards Shanks' lane again. Why not just gank the MVP
they
of the
know
last
he doesn't
game?
have flash. They know he's a key piece to LGD. There's the crash down perfectly outside of the turret. Now Haichao is dead meat Shanks gets the kill. Kepler and the rest
Oh,
of
this
LGD
is a
looking for
problem.
it. Kepler can't really find an angle in here, though. And now it's AL trying to make the great escape through the tri-bush. A little bit of damage being put back in from LGD, but they were scared to pull it off.
Oh, I felt as though Kepler had a great angle to achieve something there, but I think with the flash and the Emperor's Divide available from Shanks, LGD didn't want to commit to a fight down on numbers, particularly with Haichao dead again. Haichao picked into this matchup. It's a matchup which he played in the last game and did pretty well on it, considering both of these mid laners huge forces in that previous game, but one of them has had so much more attention from their jungler than the other. And now you're looking at this Azir, who has been the beneficiary of a lot of resources.
And I think we've seen that go pretty successfully today. There's a reason why this guy has literally been picked in almost every single game in the LPL. It's because if you give him resources, he will absolutely carry. Honestly, at this point, it's starting to become that conversation of like who could do badly on the Azir, because he's just consistently so good across so many different mid laners we have here.
And it feels like, you know, there are some answers across the world of things like the Orianna. Orianna has been one of the... You kind of trade it into the Azir nowadays, particularly with the fleet footwork. Azir's laning phase is so strong. Something like Talia can also do fairly well at points, and Akali too. It's not like Azir has come out completely unscathed from every game he's been in. But in this series, and today in particular, this Azir has been so strong.
Got the mid lane adjustments here. Kepler and Hope going at it. As I do expect an uptick of action here. We have the Rift Herald as well as a Dragon in about 1 minute and 20 seconds. I was wondering if AL want to go ahead and position around this because of their movement from mid lane.
I think they have the ability to do so. You see that Kepler's heading down to inherit the blue buff. Potential dive towards top side again. 5 Void Grubs is going to help them with the Void Mites coming out. Of course, the damage on towers alongside the Nashes means that Shanks is a tower-destroying menace at this point. Means that LGD need to be really careful about how Shanks is allowed to attack side lanes. They need to not give him an extended run at it.
Dude, Hope is getting in the damage, man. I love it.
I mean, Kepler, of course, he played the Ezreal a little earlier today, and we said, well, he's 2-9 in his career. It's in a hard game for it. Of course, he ended up doing some damage late game. Struggled to really use the power spike. Hope here, though, skill shot accuracy working out, means that the mid lane priority from LGD is not as simply gained as maybe they would have thought they'd have with the Kalista.
Again, it's just been so interesting to see these two teams grow into their new rosters, right? It feels like Haichao is the big standout here, a call-up to LGD from their LDL squad. Kepler, a call-up from Demacia Cup. It feels like a guy who's been around the scene for a while. But Hope trying to make his name known on anyone's legend from greatness.
So one of the problems that Burdol's going to have here is he's taking the Ignite, not the Teleport. His Teleport flanks last game were absolutely phenomenal on the Aatrox despite the loss. Hery is going to be just towards the bottom side of this fight. Who's in position from AL? Not Ezreal, importantly. Ezreal wants to push out this mid lane and make sure that someone has to respond. In this case, it's Burdol. He is doing a lot of damage right now. You can see what he's doing with these Qs hit. Let's see how much Hope can do. Burdol can cut them off at the pass, though. His Equalizer can very much stop the escape.
Shanks' damage is engaged. Unstoppable comes through from Hery. Now the Dragon down about 4,000 health. Equalizer.
That's a good Equalizer.
Look at Croco. He just got buster shotted out of there. The Dragon goes over to AL. So they will deny the stacking. Emperor's Divide comes through, but now LGD want more. They want to keep fighting. Fate's Call and double on members. Haichao's around the side, but it's AL pushing back the tides of war. It's a 2-for-1 trade, as well as the Dragon AL.
Yeah, Shanks gets the Dragon somehow in that mess. I thought that Equalizer was going to be absolutely catastrophic for anyone's legend, but they just about managed to skirt around the edges of it and use their range to keep putting out damage. Shout out to Kael as well. The Devour really saving Croco towards the end of that play and stopping another reset coming in for Haichao. Incredible amount of damage could have come through if that was going to be the case. How does this fight start? Hery trying to be the frontliner, tanking up a hook. The Mazael is not necessarily what you needed from it either. Feels like actually a lot of the damage is not onto Hope and Shanks. That's important. It initially looked like that Equalizer is in the right spot, but the damage dealers from anyone's legend aren't really perturbed that much. And as soon as then the fight re-engages, they have the HP to last out the end of the fight.
And Hery is terrifying there. That's what separates them. Hery just dashes forward and says, I see JinJiao on my backline. You got to deal with me. You're fighting me. And AL able to scrape away that kind of fight, but looks like a lot of positioning around Haichao here. They know he doesn't have flash.
Yeah. I think LGD have learned from their early game mistakes and said, They really like ganking this Tristana, huh? Maybe we should not give them as easy job to do that. Of course, problem is now, you have 2 items on this Azir who is going to be absolutely crapping out damage, and you can't allow him to push up in lane. He has enough stats to 1v1 the Tristana too. Very, very difficult for LGD to get good positioning around Shanks' lane.
I'm going to try to get a catch out here, actually, on the Meteor. Anybody they can really find, because they have so much CC, and honestly, Shanks is massive. Like, let's just be real. Shanks is absolutely massive right now, and so if you can find that spike with the Lich Bane, you can get a lot of damage done.
You can see just up in that mid lane, observers were potentially sniffing something out with JinJiao off of vision in that brush, but it wasn't to be. Shanks finally gets some time on this tower, and this is what they've been trying to avoid. Shanks with just 1 wave is going to destroy entire turrets. The 5 grubs, multiple grubs. Again, we haven't seen this be that successful in Pro, but in LPL games today, they've been a massive difference maker.
Yeah, and it's because teams haven't really been putting priority on them, right? Like, I feel like there were 2 avenues a lot of the time. You can try to contest for the second round of grubs, you can give it up, and we saw a lot of teams just willing to give up the full amount of grubs, even all stick sacks, not even 5. And it's just very curious how teams are taking a meta read on this. Hope overextending just a little bit. Later, Ruin King popped, and the flash from Hope goes out.
Yeah, so this is why Kalista gets really scary, because every time you walk into lane against them, you have to be landing your skill shots from the Ezreal. The ult helps there, but the problem is without the flash, the ability to force onto the Ezreal with the Kalista hopping forwards, allowing the extra gap close with the Fate's Call, means that Hope is not safe on his own. Not all the time, anyway.
Something else I'm realizing is AL have a pretty good turn and burn composition around the Baron here as well. I think LGD have a lot of spacing tools available to them in the fights, but they have to be able to land those combos, I feel like, a lot more cleanly than AL do in theirs.
I think that's true, and I think that the extra range afforded by just playing around Ezreal Q range and Azir Soldiers 2 gives them an extra degree of safety. I'm particularly looking in also in regards to degrees of safety. The vision line from Anyone's Legend has been superb so far. There are a couple of red wards a little bit more shallow from LGD, but Anyone's Legend are currently winning the information battle, and that will very much help them push up waves safely and make use of these void grubs wherever they can.
Did just get second items completed for both marksmen on LGD's side. LGD heavily loving the double marksman composition today in all 3 games for them, but now is the time to turn it up because they do have the Navori as well as the Gwynsus.
Dragon up in 45 seconds. That might be easier to look towards for both of these teams. Of course, it's easier to kill than the Baron, and they'll take less damage than it too.
Uh-oh, he doesn't have
Croco
flash
maybe
yet.
looking for Haichao again.
Oh my god, they got him. That's just taking advantage of a newer player. Not as new, still played last year, so maybe some things being given to him, but it is a Baron. Now AL burning it down easily.
That's a big mistake from Haichao. Right, what can you do here? What's the damage? You have Burdol, who is here with an equalizer, but here comes Hery.
Oh, Kael tries to go in. Big Nature's Grass. Burdol's being burned down now. Shanks is doing so much work. Hery takes down Kepler and AL. They've taken 4 members off the map and go right to the Baron.
And all of it starts from where Anyone's Legend have focused the entire game. It's the man in the mid lane, backed up by the Metal Horse Predator ambush thingy from Croco. They put so much effort into getting this Azir ahead and shutting the Tristana down. It leads to the pick, it leads to the Baron. The Baron will lead to a huge increase in gold for them and pressure across the map. It starts from this. There was enough vision to spot Haichao heading towards that lane, and then of course he shows on the minions. Shanks, Croco, they have been the engine room for them in this game. Of course, after this, it's as good as done. Kepler doesn't get to do damage because Hery is dealing with him. And then on the other side of the fight, as you're saying, really, Hope and Shanks putting out ridiculous damage.
When they just get to stand there and free fire, it is looking like an AL victory every time because they have so much sustained damage in them. Hope able to get down a lot of that. And now a Devourer coming out onto JinJiao, who's just gobbled up by AL.
Oh,
and
not
Hope
in range.
Now going forward, Kepler, he's got to be really careful. The tongue, and it's not enough. Kepler goes down, Hope on a double kill, and Shanks sets him up for more. That's a triple. Give him a quadra. Give it to him. And now the only one left is Burdol, and he's on the other side of the map. So a quadra kill for Anyone's Legends, Hope.
He's recalling, he might have the ultimate to wave clear this, but the Baron buff is gonna mean this wave clear is not easy at all. The timer is still on for the pentakill potentially, but JinJiao has respawned to call that one quit. The Mites and the Baron buff gonna make this a devastating push.
AL in one fell swoop! They're taking out LGD! It might have been a scrappy fight, but the Mites are gonna make the difference here. One final push, one missed fight, and anyone's legend bring us all the way home for a 9-game banger and a 2-2 season scoreline.
Anyone's legend. They drop a game, but they take the series. It has been a marathon. Game 3. It wasn't the long slugfest that Game 2 was. It wasn't as end-to-end. It was much more clinical. Shanks, Croco, they were the ones which really ended up firing up things and making sure that Haichao couldn't reprise what was overall an impressive series from him. I don't even walk away from this feeling particularly bad about LGD. I think that this was a hard-fought series. I think both of these teams showcased different players playing on